Every journey begins with belief. For one student, it was belief in change and the courage to act on it. This is the story of Mohit Gambir, a leader in the education sector, shaped by global exposure and studying abroad. And at the heart of it, there lies one powerful lesson: openness to learning. How do you prefer cooking? Is it the precise measurement method, or do you just go with the flow of your mood?
I don't measure, so I don't believe in measuring. I believe in instinctive cooking. My cooking also evolves as I go along. So every time I cook, I try and change the complexity of flavors to see if I can make the dish evolve to taste slightly more different as compared to each time. I'm not into consistency. And I think that's what brings out exciting flavors, variety, taste,
Yes.
fun elements in it. And for me, it's therapeutic. I love cooking. So I find it extremely relaxing. It's therapeutic, but I go with how I feel on that day when I'm cooking. It's not pre planned.
When you decided to go abroad for your master's, was it the similar way, instinctive, or was it the measured steps that you took?
I think we come from a culture where a lot of these decisions are made by others around us. So there's teachers, there's counselors, there's parents, there's peers that influence that decision making. And it was the same for me. It was while I was keen to go abroad because my exposure was limited, I lent on my parents and my father specifically to guide and advise me. And it was his suggestion that I should pursue my master's, and then I started doing research and looking at options. So it was predominantly guided by the experience of elders, which generally happens in the culture that we live within.
So it was mainly your father's decision. What was the initial expectations based on that? As in, I mean, it's mainly that what you listen, that is your instinct. When you went abroad during that time, now we have awareness about through digital platforms, we are able to see a lot of things. But when you went, I mean, only films were that thought process that okay, abroad life outside India is going to be like this. To landing there and looking at reality, what was it like?
So there was a lot of anxiety and nervousness before I left. It was the first time going abroad, besides for a holiday, but for a longer period and then away from your comfort zone. So it wasn't easy at all. Also, reality is very different from what we perceive because what we see is through a very narrow tunnel vision of what we have seen as hopes and expectations. But when you go there and you land, things are very different from what you expect. So it's a reality check.
Could you give me an example of one of that incident that happened with you there? Just one.
A lot of them, and therefore there is this word to describe it which we call culture shock.
Yeah.
There's a big culture shock when you go there, and we're used to a culture where there's a lot of hand holding and support mechanisms, and suddenly you're thrown into an environment where you have to do everything independently, which takes time to adjust and adapt to. So I'll give you one example. Part of my journey to study abroad was I booked halls of residence at the university where I was studying. I reached slightly late at night, and I reached the halls of residence, and now I need to, settle in. You've come off a 15-hour flight. You're already knackered and wrecked. You haven't eaten anything. You've reached your halls of residence. First thing you want to do is get in your room and freshen up because you're mentally already disorientated. So I go into my halls of residence and there's no one there. So what am I supposed to do next? So then you get nervous because how do I get a room? It's late at night. How do I find my food? So I patiently waited. I saw a couple of other students and I asked them, what am I supposed to do? And they said, wait, the warden shall be here. In fact, the warden might be sitting in one of the other halls, so please go and ask her to come here. So I went there, I asked the warden that I've booked halls of residence, I need my accommodation, here's my evidence. So they came over, they checked their record. They says, yes, we have you booked in. Here's your key. Take a left. It's the second building on the right. Go on to the second floor. The fourth door on the left is your hall. So I was like, this is nerve wracking for me. I was
It's like a
really
map.
nervous. So I have these heavy bags. Now I have to walk out, find this second building on the right, go up onto the second floor, find my room. So for me, that was a big culture shock. And I'm like, I'm just coming to a new country and this is how they treat me. I expected somebody will come with me, lift my bags, take me to my room, settle. That's expectation versus reality is very different. And it makes you feel extremely low because you have no one, no shoulder to cry on. Whom do I share these experiences with? I don't have any friends. It's a new country. I can't speak to my parents because they'll get nervous. They want me to be happy and settled. So you're always shattered between how do you manage this. Plus, you're constantly being told that you need to learn to adjust and adapt and cope with it. So you're not mentally prepared for these things. But it is that tipping point that it's when you low and how you pick yourself together and pick up the pieces from there that defines your character for the future. So it's these small things that actually define you as a person and the course of life that's going to take once you actually find your way to work around these things.
It did teach you self-reliance. Can I say that?
100%. Self-reliance, independence, to be able to think for yourself. So I give you another example. I was very scared to present and speak in front of audiences. It wasn't my character because I was an introvert. So my professors picked up on that. But then that's the beauty of that learning experience, and that's what I feel students go for. It's not the education by itself. You can get good education wherever you are.
True.
But what really is the game changer is the way the teachers think to help you become better and to bring out qualities which you don't have and enhance qualities that you do have. So in my case, they realized that he was not very front facing. So how do we change that? So each time there was an activity, they used to ask me, come up and present, because he shared with me, I still remember my marketing professor, and a lot of regard and respect for him. He says, the more I throw you out of your comfort zone, the more you learn how to adapt to that situation, because I want to make you so strong at it. Tomorrow, when you go into the workplace, you will have to present to your bosses, to the corporates. So you have to be ready. It's not about teaching you what you need to present. What I need to teach you is the confidence to present. Now, confidence is not something you can teach, but it comes by doing something you don't like doing time and again till it becomes autoimmune, and then you start doing it because you've learned the knack to handle and deal with that situation. So he threw me in front of the class on so many occasions, sent me to companies on so many occasions, that I said, you know what, hell with it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do whatever needs to be done.
Yeah.
So there's no time to think. From thinking and nervousness, you move to doing. And once you've transitioned into doing, then there's no looking back because you've learned the knack on how to do. And that is what you're going for. It's very difficult to define when students come and ask me, so, what am I really going to get by studying abroad? It's difficult to quantify because I cannot put this into a box. I can't say that, yes, you'll get a degree. Everyone gets a degree. But it's these elements that catalytically get imbibed in you that change your personality for the future and that last for the entire journey of your career. That's what you're going for.
I feel I can, if I'm correct, I'll frame it in one sentence. It is that key qualities in life that you need, you learn that. You build yourself in that. And then obviously you apply it to your professional life as well as your personal life. Am I correct? In
No,
a
you're
way.
spot on. You're right. And I think that's part of the teaching mechanism. So their teaching mechanism is not as bookish as ours was. It's not just about learning what Philip Kotler said. It's about experiencing and finding your own way as you go along to deal with situations. Because what they'll tell you is, for example, there's a company that is struggling with increasing their market footprint, and they want us to critically analyze what we would do differently to try and increase the market footprint and grow the business. Now, there could be two students in the same class, me and another student. Both have polar opposite viewpoints. For example, my viewpoint could be that I'll go more aggressive in marketing, I'll open up new sales channels, and I'll find new ways of building business. The other viewpoint of the other person is I'll evaluate the market circumstances. Perhaps I'll look at more efficiencies, cost cutting, and logistics. So his viewpoint could be very different from my perspective and viewpoint. But the beauty, what I learned of studying internationally, is there's no right answer. It's all about different approaches to the same problem. And both approaches could work for two different people. It's not that my answer was right and therefore I get some brownie points over his answer. His answer was also right.
Yeah.
But it's your ability to analyze, think it through, and find solutions. And it's that agility, what they try and imbibe with you through various simulations and scenarios.
Basically solve practical world problems.
Absolutely. So they make you ready for the
Yeah.
real world and the challenges of the real world, rather than just telling you that this is an exam. In fact, a large part of my course wasn't even exam based. And very interesting experience that I had that I'd like to share is exams formulated about 30% of the total marking criteria. So I still remember going into my marketing exam, and I saw that a lot of students had their books with them. So I went to the professor and I said, "This doesn't sound right.
Open book test.
How come? Yeah, how come you take your books in the exam with you?" And he says, "I don't understand what the problem is." I said, "But then they can copy the answer."
Yeah.
He says, "But the beauty of the question I've asked is there's no answer in the book. I'm asking you to analyze, evaluate, examine, and put on paper what you think should be done." Now, these are tools that you can take from the book to support your arguments, but there is no answer in the book that's going to define the response that you're going to give. So I'm going to be able to analyze through your answer whether you've used the right tools, which is fantastic. But the critical element of analysis has to be yours and unique to you. And that's what I'm looking for. Hence, the questions are defined in a manner that there's no ready answer. And I found that really liberating. I said, I never thought of that. Because in our education system, we're just used to regurgitating what you have to rote learn and then produce that on paper based on which you're marked.
When you went for MBA, correct me if I'm wrong, abroad, and while studying, did you do any part-time jobs, and what was it like? Were you able to manage your studies with part-time job?
And that leads me back to my point of being independent. Is
Yes.
I didn't, while my father was always willing to support me financially, I didn't want to put additional burden. And I thought, if I can balance and learn, because all my friends were working part-time, and I said I should do that too. But then I realized that I was inadequate to work part-time because I did not want to do just over-the-counter job, maybe at Sainsbury's, Tesco, Asda, which is stocking shelves. So I said I wanted to do something slightly more impactful in my part-time job. So I had a friend that told me that there's a lot of companies that want your help to type up whatever they have written onto the computer, or help with presentations or data by way of Excel spreadsheets. But for that, you need to learn how to type at minimum 70 words per minute. So I still remember, I sat in the computer room. I think I spent 2-3 weeks relentlessly, 3 hours every day learning how to type. And then I went for a test, because to get these jobs, you have to go through a certain test. So I went through a test. Luckily, it came out 72 words per minute, which is fantastic. I was super happy. And I started getting these temp jobs, we call them temporary jobs, in London at various companies. And I was, to my good fortune, I worked with very good companies like Ernest & Young, Price Waterhouse, some of the renowned consultancy firms where I got a lot of temp jobs, a lot of respect that you get from the CEOs of those companies because you're coming in to help them out for a lot of the work that they could not do themselves or do not want to do to save on time. I got a lot to learn of how companies function. And I think I never looked back. That experience redefined me big time because I never knew this is how companies work and how professional it was. When you walk into the glass doors of one of these top consulting firms, it's like a wowing experience. And it's not something you're exposed to, but I loved it. I loved every minute of it, of how they respect you, how they value your time, how do you quantify your time, how you're supposed to pace the outcome that you want to deliver, how do you make it up to the right level of satisfaction for the client that you're trying to serve. These are all redefining experiences.
It kind of teaches you time management as well, and I feel it teaches you how to manage your finances on your own, because obviously most of the students that go abroad, they're like, you have a strict budget to follow every month. This is the rent, this is the allowances, and this is the amount that I'm going to spend on my education, books, all the costs. Did it help you in that manner as well?
It's a great point you raise, and time management is something that we absolutely have no sense of culturally.
I'm not going to comment on this. No comments.
So, for example, if here I had to go in, you know how it is at weddings. If you're called at 7 o'clock, you have to reach at 10 p.m. That's culturally.
That's a true Indian wedding.
Correct.
How is it possible?
But then that's how culturally we are mentally attuned to think.
Yeah.
So you assume that's how everything is, that my value will only be seen if I reach late rather than come on time. But hilariously, I got reprimanded once when I had to go into a company and reach there for my part-time job at 9 a.m. And I reached at 9 a.m. and I was told off, saying that if you meant to reach at 9 a.m., you should have been here 8:45. And that's when I realized, that, okay, the way we think, it's not about reaching on time.
It's reaching
It's
before.
about reaching 15 minutes prior to your scheduled time and then settling in and starting at 9 a.m. So that was an eye-opener for me. I learned a lot from that experience and other experience. But I tell you, the secret of all of this is the willingness to learn. If you don't have the right attitude, you're still very much the same you are, and hence the results are mediocre. But if you want fantastic results, you have to change your attitude to have the willingness to learn. And again, as I said, these are things you can't quantify. That's why when I tell you, when you go abroad for higher studies, it's not just the degree that you go for. It's for all of these additives and peripheral benefits that imbibe within you as you go along.
It's the experience that is your real ROI.
Spot on. Absolutely. And I would say, if you ask me to quantify it, I would say your degree only forms 30%. 70% is all of this additional that becomes a part of you, that you learn sometimes the hard way. But don't forget, those learning experience then stay for a lifetime. Today, when I have to go into a meeting, I make sure I reach 30 minutes before, because I've learned that the hard way. It's sat within me, and I'll make sure that I follow that right till the rest of my life. It's become a part of me.
Yeah, it's just that's the way of survival instinct, I feel. As in, like, I have to reach 15 minutes because this happened. So that just inbuilt in you, and there are certain survival instincts that we human has, right? Certain key points in our mind. So that just became yours. Like, I have to reach, I need to learn how to value time. Then only time will value me. As in, like, everywhere. Is it that way?
It is, but I think what makes it more difficult is first having to unlearn all the wrong things that you have learned from your legacy.
That's very tough.
which is it's not just about learning. You know, when you're younger, the formative years,
Yeah.
that's when children really learn. So whatever you learn, then you have to first unlearn to then set it right as you go along. And try not to take this on record, but I failed my driving test in London, and that's after doing 20 lessons at a professional company in London. Now, don't forget, before I'd gone to the UK, I was driving in India for a good 8 years. But in spite of that, I failed my driving test. And when I asked my instructor, he says, you know why you failed your driving test? Because I'm not being able to take out all what you've wrongly learned
Back
from
home.
where you've come from. So he said, that's the problem. And until I don't get all that out of you, I can't tell you how to feed the wheel, mirror, back, look at all these different places. We're not used to doing all of that.
Yeah.
So to get into that, it's one thing to learn the right, but it also to negate the wrong. So you have to work much harder, because you're trying to make opposite forces to work to be able to then set it right for the right course for the future. So it's not easy, but it's a much needed experience.
I'm going to move forward a bit from your education journey. You decided to enter education sector. What was the main reason behind you entering this? Was it from your past experience as a student that you faced as an international student once?
No, spot on. You're absolutely right. So I came back to India because I decided I wanted to be with my family. And the moment I came back, I had a lot of aspirational students, friends within the vicinity of where I was living who also wanted to do it, but wanted to know from the horse's mouth of what the experience is like. Why do you go? What mistakes do you make? How do I get it right? And I think before I knew it, I became a counselor.
Yeah.
And then I thought to myself that if I can do it for the benefit of people around me, why can't I do it for the larger audiences that are also looking for advice, guidance? But somewhere, I think deep down in my heart, I wanted to share my experiences with others so that they don't make the same mistakes I did. And if I can give them these tips before they go, then their experience can be much more smoother and better outcomes when they are there. And I think it's just with that intent that I started off, not knowing where this is going to lead and how it's going to grow. But sometimes I feel that if you have the right intent in your heart, then the outcomes are good.
You went for an experience. You came back with the thought that I want to bring in change. I want to work towards the change. Change as in like the problems that usually an international student faces abroad. Am I right?
No, absolutely right. Because at that time, don't forget, we're talking about now 20 years ago. At that time, there wasn't that much awareness of where do you study, how do you go about it, what am I supposed to do, what's life going to be, can I work part-time, how do I get part-time jobs, what are the common errors people make, and how do I think differently. So all of that was something that I tried to prepare students for better, so that they could have better outcomes. And I still have the very first student I'd sent to UK, as back 2005, still in touch with me and showing gratitude, because his life was redefined thanks to the experiences I shared with him, and that made his journey more relatable. So it's not always about painting a rosy picture, but also managing the realistic expectations so that when they are there, then when reality strikes, you're prepared for it mentally because you knew that was what was going to happen.
You have 20 plus years of experience in this sector. Am I right or am I wrong? You have to say 20 plus. I mean,
it's quite ironical because I'm only 21 years old, but yeah, I do have 20 plus years.
Actually, you're only 21. Okay. We'll go with that then. But you have 20 plus years of experience in the industry.
Yeah.
So you're a 21-year-old
yeah, absolutely. I
boy
went
in
when
the
I was 1 year
industry. Based on what you have had conversation with the kids when they decide to go abroad, with the institutions that you have, if you're basically a mediator, okay, between the institution and the student. What are the expectations of the institution from the student, as well as what are the expectations of student from the institution, and that needs to be dimmed down a bit for the students' sake as well, and that they need to, go there with a realistic approach that okay, this is what I'm going to get, and this is what it's a hardball basically.
So it's a two-edged sword.
Yeah.
A lot of the work that we do is not only counsel the student, but also speak to the institutions to set the right expectations. Now, universities and institutions overseas expect students to come with a certain level of proficiency, whether it be English, whether it be background, whether it be understanding, and that's not the case. So we have to, we often do that, is inform our institutions to provide that wraparound and hand holding initially to the students so that they can learn to be independent. But if you expect them to be independent from the day one, which generally doesn't happen, there's a mismatch. Students end up getting frustrated and the institution ends up getting frustrated because they feel that the students are not of the right caliber.
Yeah.
And the students feel that they are not being well supported by the institutions.
Yeah.
Then there is unhappiness on both sides. And a large part of the work we do is trying to make sure that the students are better prepared for better outcomes of what is expected of them when they're there, and institutions to give them that hand holding and support initially so that students can ease into better outcomes as you go along. So we are the bridge between the student and the institution.
Now you said about the university needs to handhold students. Currently, as far as I am aware about, there are, I think almost all universities are doing the student support system that is in place in all these universities. There are in fact clubs that is in place. So according to you, what are the important things that the student needs to learn and prep before going abroad? That is like, you should not go sit in that plane without learning these things.
So I think the biggest mistake students make is they don't research themselves. I find that students are, I mean, they're living in an age where they have access to so much information, but I really don't think they're doing justice to all the information they have access to, and they should do more, because is a life-changing decision, and one mistake and you can't correct it. So if you're going to do it, then do it properly. And when I say do it properly, is research into the country that you're going to. Don't just get carried away because some people say that X country is fantastic in terms of salaries or job opportunities. That shouldn't just be the guiding factor. Research into the institution that you're going to, because each country, each institution has a certain personality, and that has to fit the mindset and personality of the student. So, for example, there are some universities which have large campus experiences, and some universities that are just professional outfits of training. Which do I choose and which is right for me depends on what I would like as my outcome and my experience. Now, there's both sides of argument for going to those specific institutions, and both are doing fantastically well in terms of volumes and business. But whether the campus experience is right for me or just a professional outfit is right for me is for me to decide of what outcomes I'm looking for and what experience I'm looking for. And hence the need for research. I also feel that where students are lacking is they don't do their spade work before going, by speaking to other students perhaps that have studied there or are studying there, or even speaking to tutors to understand that this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Am I doing the right thing by coming to your institution? Tell me more about your institution. So that's one element that I feel is lacking. Yes, we are there to guide them, counselors are there to guide them, but I feel that some ownership needs to be on part of the institutions, because it's very easy to go there and blame that I was misguided by my counselor and now I'm stuck. No,
Yeah.
it's your decision. You have chosen to go there. You own
True.
it, you live through it, and you work through it. You cannot pass on the blame to anyone else.
Anyone. Yeah.
It has to be your decision, and you have to follow it through. So make sure that you do your research before you go. And I've been consistently, repeatedly telling students is do your own research. We're here to answer your questions, but do not rely on us, because my view will always be tainted to my experiences, which might not be akin or apt for your personality. So your decision has to be your decision, and then, of course, validated by any questions or concerns that you might have, which I can respond to help you, reassure you that your decision is right or think in a different direction. So that's something that I feel is a big mismatch in the market as on today. Our students do not do sufficient amount of research.
I would like to add to that. I think the major thing that I have observed is that when I talk to my fellow friends and I have seen the students and all, they don't check the emails. So the universities always send marketing emails, which is always not marketing. There are webinars that are there, that are in place for them, that they need to learn this. Something that is, you can be prepped beforehand. Accommodation is there, how to pay your fees. In fact, there are universities who are doing this, connecting with fellow students who are currently studying in the universities, like a student ambassadors. So, and now we have LinkedIn, like a social media accounts. You just connect with fellow students and know about what is actually happening, and your career goal is it aligning with it or not? Am I right?
No, you are. I'm just trying to think. There's another thought that comes to my mind, that another big element that's missing is the right attitude, because students go with a sense of entitlement and a sense of passiveness. So we just go into the class and we sit that, look, I've paid you money, it's your job to teach me. So it's almost like I'm being forced to learn. And now for you, in whatever way or form, to make me learn that. But there's no it's not a two-way process where I'm engaging with the tutor to try and learn myself and figure out what more can I learn. So I've never seen any student while doing their degree will also focus on skilling themselves on areas they're weak, or identifying my weaknesses of skill sets that I can augment.
Yeah.
But that's not my job because I have paid for a course and it's your job to teach me. So there's a big disconnect there. And I feel that's what separates us from the Western world, because the Western world is continuously upskilling. And we are too busy just trying to accumulate degrees rather than learning the right skills which are needed for the market, not only for now, but also for the future. And we need to be aware of what's going on in the world. I mean, maybe your students should read about it, but the World Economic Forum says that 50% of all people in jobs will be displaced by 2030 because of AI and the changes of the skill set requirement. So what are we doing to upskill, to prepare ourselves that we're not displaced, because we are going to be the workforce for the future? Nothing. All we are doing is, let's go, let's get a degree. Is that enough? You need to ask yourself those questions.
Yeah, true. Um, okay, that's actually a very tough statement to absorb for me. Um, One last question before I let you go. One book that you would recommend students to read, even if the students are abroad or in India, just a book that actually helped you in a way, in general in your life, and a film that you would recommend.
So that is a very personal question, and I think it depends on who's at what point of their life journey. There's no one book that actually will give the right insights to each person, because each one looks at things differently and at various stages of learning curve and growth in their life. Instead of doing that, what I would recommend to students is learn, read a book that makes you more anchored. Because what again I'm finding with the young generation is aspirations are very high, and nothing wrong with that, but there's no grounding and anchoring. And I think if that balance could somehow be reachieved, there could be a lot more success and growth into the future, because it's only when you're rooted and anchored that the fruits are even more opulent. That's my personal view, and I would recommend to the new generation to start thinking of how they could be more rooted into ancient wisdoms, which I think somewhere left along the way as a part of the revolution to evolve.
Okay, one book you like and one film that you like. Let's
So, a
just say
book that
book.
I really enjoy reading is Paramahansa Yogananda, and his life journey and what he's achieved in his life and the trials and triumphs, and a different prism of looking at life and different evolution journey. So I personally connect with that book quite a lot. And I'm not so much into movies, so it's
That's why I
difficult
said
for me
movies.
to name movies which I like. But Three Idiots is one that really touched me somewhere,
Okay.
because it brings out the fallacies and the shortcomings of our education system. And it saddens me to see that that's how we're bringing up the future of tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time. I think what we learned from this episode, not I think, I'm definitely sure what we learned from this episode is openness to learning is what will lead you forward.
Absolutely. The right attitude, openness to learning, willingness to adjust, to learn more, and of course, to do more research before they decide to take that step on their journey forward.
Thank you.
You're welcome.